Down in the shadows where the courthouse stands, a gavel cracks a fading hands. Judge Gould, they whisper with a crooked grin, played the game where justice don't win. Free Rick Allen, let him go. Chains on the innocent, don't you know? When the truth's been buried and the lies unfold, the fire in the people burns hot and cold. Prosecutor Mickelin with his papers tied wrote the tale that never saw light. Twisted words in a room of stone, left Rick Allen to stand alone. Who will answer? Who will pay? The sun don't rise on a judgment day. Free Rick Allen, let him go. Chains on the innocent, don't you know? When the truth's been buried and the lies unfold, the fire in the people burns hot and cold. Officer Holman, eyes like frost, drunk on power, the line got lost. Lock the doors, keep him inside, for justice limps where his footsteps stride.
Hey, folks, and welcome to this Monday. Monday it is. But Monday it will be. Well, it is Monday, and we are now continuing from what we started on Saturday, which is reading of the trial transcript from the Delphi case, the trial against Rick Allen. And we have reached the record of proceeding and hearing on safekeeping order from June 15th, 2023. Now, we just finished off with the February 17th, 2023. So this is a number of months later. And in between February 17th and June 15th, it had become clear to the defense exactly what was going on in prison. They found out about the Odinist gods. They found out about the active psychosis. They found out all about them being recorded while they were trying to speak to Rick Allen. At this point in time, it became abundantly clear to the defense exactly how bad it was, because here on June 15th, Rick is in full-blown psychosis. He is drugged to his eyeballs in antipsychotics, including but not limited to Soviet Union's favorite mind-altering drug, Haldol. And he started to allegedly confess everything from I might have done it to ways he would have done. He supposedly done it. For instance, one of his confession was he shot the girls in the back. They weren't shot in the back. He confessed allegedly to killing his mother while on phone with his mother. He started World War III. He was cheating with a matchstick or a cigarette, something of the sort. The ramblings of a person in full-blown psychosis. While having Dr. Walla whispering in his ear, in my opinion, all the things. Because she could. She thought herself, even though she was there to help Rick, she took it upon herself, in my opinion, to help him confess. No matter the cost or no matter the evidence. She went outside of her role as a prison shrink to help the investigation. There's a unique place in hell for Dr. Walla when that time comes. And I'm thinking of doing a separate video about Dr. Walla, because she might move out of Indiana. She still has her degree. She might try to pick up on her profession again somewhere else. I want her name associated with this. And what she did. So the more different hits on Google and stuff, because employers will check Google before they hire someone. Does she still hold her license? Yeah. To my knowledge, she has not had her license revoked. So, this is going to be rough, folks. This is a lot. I should have started earlier because this is a lot of pages. But State of Indiana, County of Carroll, State of Indiana versus Rick Allen, record of proceeding at hearing on safekeeping order held June 15, 2023. Here we go. For the State of Indiana, Nicholas C. McLeland. For defendant, Bradley Rossi and Andrew Baldwin. Judge Gull, judge, and Jody, reporter. Now again, I've said this on a few occasions. This is record of proceedings at hearing on safekeeping order held June 15. The original safekeeping order was an ex parte meeting between McLeland and Judge Diener. We don't have that transcript. Or at least the transcript is not included here in this appellate transcript. This is the transcript the appellate attorneys have. Why the flaming fuck isn't the original safekeeping order ex parte meeting in here? Ask Jody. Ask Jody L. Williams, court reporter, because she is the one who put all of this together. Proceedings. The court. All right. We are on the record in State of Indiana versus Richard Allen. I'll show that the defendants here in person with counsel, Mr. Rossi, Mr. Baldwin. The state is here by the elected prosecutor, Mr. McClelland. Gentlemen, are you ready to proceed? Rossi says, yes, ma'am. McClelland says, yes, Your Honor. The court. All right. Before we get started, I'll just remind everybody about the courtroom decorum order. You've all been very kind and waiting for us, as we had some discussions in chambers about how things would be proceeding today. Why isn't that in this? It might be off the record, but I don't think it should be. I'd like to start by advising everyone we've had the opportunity to review the file and to have some discussions in chambers about the confidential pleadings that have been filed with the court over the last several months. Yeah, there's a lot of motions. And Judge Gull had a habit of denying defense motions without hearing, but this one she couldn't stop. With the agreement of counsel, and I do appreciate the agreement of counsel, I will be entering an order sometime next week that will unseal all of the pleadings that have been submitted to the court. My court executive will create a web page, and I will provide that web page address to counsel. We will download all of the unsealed documents to that web page, and then they will be available to whomever wishes to review what have previously been deemed to be confidential. It took months before anything actually showed up on that page. And even when something showed up, I can't be sure it's correct. I really can't. I would remind the attorneys that they are still working under the gag order that prohibits comments and discussions with the media. I know that we're here on a motion to suppress evidence and a motion to reconsider the safekeeping order. I'd like to proceed with a motion to reconsider the safekeeping order, but consistent with our discussions in chambers, the motion to suppress evidence will be continued to be reset. I know we didn't come up with the date yet, but we will, before the conclusion of the hearing, come up with a date to reset the suppression hearing. I would ask the defense attorneys to file the Franks versus Delaware notice to the state, and then we can reset the suppression hearing at that time. The Franks motion. Oh. So at this time, the defense knows everything. Everything the prosecution tried to hide from them. Everything. So, Mr. Rossi, Mr. Baldwin, are you ready to proceed on the motion to reconsider the safekeeping order? Mr. Rossi? Yes, ma'am. The court. All right. Mr. McClelland, you also prepared? McClelland? Yes, Your Honor. The court, you may proceed. Mr. Rossi? Judge, just by way of a brief opening. The court. Yes. Mr. Rossi, you know, I guess the first issue that maybe the court might want to tackle is the burden of proof. You know, we're kind of in this kind of weird situation here where we got the Safekeeping Act, which is in Indiana is IC 35-33-11-1. And clearly there was a pleading that was filed by the former sheriff, Mr. Leazenby, back in 2022 that essentially asked for relief under that statute. And basically the allegations in that pleading, as you know, are, quote, hey, Judge, we got a situation here where there's a lot of media coverage and we're concerned about that and just the burden that that places on our sheriff's department and the system at large or as a whole here in Carroll County. And number two, that we don't feel like we have the manpower or the staffing to address the needs that might exist in terms of detaining Mr. Allen and transporting him. That was Mr. Leazenby being a lying piece of human garbage. I think those are really the two pillars upon which their pleading is based. The court also knows, just by looking at the record, that the former judge, the Honorable Judge Diener, who presides in this court on a daily basis, issued an order essentially granting the sheriff's request to engage the safekeeping statute, and did that without any type of evidentiary hearing, nor was there any, were there any affidavits filed, or any sworn statements, or anything of that nature that was offered up to the court to support the allegations, if you will, or the concerns is how I would refer to them in the sheriff's motion. And so that leaves us in the situation where, really there's been no due process offering of evidence that supports the motion. And then beyond that, I, of course, procedurally file a motion to modify. I probably could have couched that motion as a motion to dismiss or terminate or some other, word that maybe fit the circumstances a bit better. But I really do think, generally, it's the sheriff's burden to put on some evidence that the safekeeping order is appropriate. Now, with that being said, I'm not here to try to ambush the sheriff or the prosecutor or whoever is, defending, in a sense, that petition. I'm willing to put on evidence if that's the most orderly process for the court. But I do think that it's important to understand that it's really not our burden. And the statute is pretty clear that there needs to be a showing that Mr. Allen, in this case, is in some imminent danger or serious bodily injury, a pretty high standard. And so I'm prepared to present some evidence in that regard. But in fairness, I'm not sure it's my burden. But I'm looking to the court for some direction. And in the same breath, of course, I would ask for a separation of witness order. I think I rounded up most of the people that I cannot try to pick people out, but I see a few of the witnesses that I'm going to be calling here. The court, okay. Mr. Rossi, I might check the hallway to make sure. The court, okay, go ahead. Mr. Rossi, is Sheriff Schroeder in here? Okay, maybe if you could grab him, just because we don't want, let's make one admonishment. And the court, sure. Rossi, get on with it, so to speak. Mr. McLeland, Judge, if I might interject. The court, yeah. Mr. McLeland, I already had my witnesses step out because defense counsel made us aware in chambers that is going to ask for this motion. I can have them step in quickly, Judge, just so they can have the admonishment. The court, okay. Okay, are all the witnesses now in the courtroom that would be called on the safekeeping order? Mr. Rossi, I believe so, yes. The court. Okay, those of you that have been subpoenaed or known to be a witness in this proceeding, you are advised there is a motion for separation of witnesses. The import of that means that you cannot talk about your testimony with anyone other than the attorney that called you. You cannot be in the courtroom during any of the other witnesses' testimony, and you're not permitted to discuss the testimony of other witnesses amongst yourselves or with anyone else. Is that a sufficient admonishment from your perspective, gentlemen? Mr. Rossi, yes, Your Honor. McLeland, yes, Your Honor. The court, thank you. You may step back out in the hallway, please. Mr. Rossi, may I continue? The court, yes, sir. Mr. Rossi, Judge, just by way of a brief summary of kind of what I think you're going to hear today. Our position rests, in part of some basic, statutory law in Indiana. I've already noted that 35, 33, 11, 1, safekeeping statute. Second, we believe that, this is a circumstance where there are some equal protection issues and due process issues under the 14th Amendment. And some of that just pertains to the disparity in treatment that I believe Mr. Allen is receiving versus others that are similarly situated. The due process argument, obviously, is similar to what I talked about earlier. Just there's got to be some evidentiary showing. And then Mr. Allen's Sixth Amendment right to counsel, I think, is kind of in play here. And that is to say that there have been some hurdles that I think you're going to hear about with regard to us having access and getting access to him and having some confidential access to him. Those types of things that I think kind of are wrapped around the Sixth Amendment. I alluded to this earlier. The sheriff's request that was filed back in 2022 is primarily asking for relief for what I would consider to be maybe practical reasons. That, this community was inundated with media requests and it's just been overbearing essentially on the community, but I don't think it's there's no information or allegations. There is no information. There are no allegations in this petition that pertains to the law as it relates to safekeeping and the standard. There's no doubt today that in response to our request, one of the things the court is going to hear is that Mr. Allen has been incarcerated, and while incarcerated, has made some incriminating statements. He's implicated himself in this crime. Of course, we are aware of that. These are in my opinion, false confessions. I believe the state's going to introduce that evidence to try and garner up some emotional support here. But at the end of the day, anything that exists is generic at best. And it's the state's or it's the defense position that whatever has been said by him in the last several months is entirely inconsistent with the approach that he had taken leading up to his arrest in this case, including all of those interviews with the police and for months after he was incarcerated. And in fact, to the extent that the state offers up any evidence of these statements, you're going to see at some point in this case, you're going to hear that, that 1 minute he's saying one thing and the next minute he's saying something totally opposite. So, they're generic discussions and admissions at best. And, the court should know that that's coming. We're not hiding from any of that. We're of the position that his mental and physical state is deteriorating, and that whatever he's doing and the actions that he's engaging in, frankly, are largely related to that circumstance. Beyond that, the defense's goal today is to try and find a practical solution to what really shouldn't be a problem. And that problem is that we don't have convenient access to our clients because of the distance and a lot of these hurdles and some of the, I'll call them, conditions that are existing in the facility where he's housed. And there's no reason why this should even be an issue in this case. It's never been an issue in any other case I've dealt with in the 23 years I've been doing this. And there's no reason why Mr. Allen should be treated differently, why I shouldn't have access to him, why Mr. Baldwin shouldn't have immediate access to him, and why our team or staff, our support staff, shouldn't have instant access to him. And and this goes to, they have to book meetings. They went there and was sent away. At this point in time, in a 5-month period, no, not 5, between February and June, they might have had 4 or 5 meetings with his client who is charged with murder. Because Rick Allen is over an hour away, if not more. When they get to see him, he is they are in more or less a janitor's office of sorts, where they put a cage in the middle. In that cage, Rick Allen is still shackled, while heavily sedated, and they are still trying to record Mr. Allen and his attorneys, the prison guards. And I'm asking the court today to follow the law and then issue a practical ruling, a ruling that's practical and addresses that problem so we can get on with the merits. And that's really why we're here today. Thank you. The court, Mr. McClelland, Judge. The state is in a unique position because I don't represent the sheriff's office. I don't represent the DOC. My real interest in this, Judge, is to protect the interest of the sheriff in terms of part of the reason for the safekeeping is we're short on manpower to be able to protect Mr. Allen and to be able to transport him back and forth to hearings. Oh, boo fucking who, you cunt. It's your obligation to make this happen. It's the court's obligation. It's the sheriff's office obligation. It's the prosecution's obligation to make it happen. I don't give a flying fuck about your hardships in this. It's your damn obligation. And that's really the state's main concern, that he's protected while he's in custody, and that's protected when he's transported back and forth to custody, because, as Mr. Rossi said, the evidence and all the briefings are going to come out today, and the evidence is going to come out that he has made admissions. Isn't there a gag order, Mr. McLeland? So why are you here in this hearing saying it's going to get out? Well, because you all, at this point in time, it's already been leaked. It's already been leaked. The admissions put him in a heightened security risk. That's just the reality. If he's moved to a jail that's closer to our community, there's likely more people who are emotionally tied to this case. And so the state's real goal is to keep him safe and to make sure that when he's transported, that he's safe. No! McLeland's goal here is to make Rick suffer more. Keeping there, in prison, surrounded by Odinist guards, guarded by voluntary inmates who hate him, helped by Dr. Walla, who helps the state with getting the admissions out of him. Also, the state wants to address some of the allegations that the defense outlined in their motion. Some of the allegations against the DOC. Yeah, the Odinist guards. One of the guards, of a bunch of the guards, had Odinist patches on their uniform. And when they were told they couldn't have it anymore because the defense made such a ruckus about it, one of them tattooed in Odin's spear in his face. And then he says this: the reality is he's been treated better than other inmates there. You cunt. You fucktwat. That he's in a prison where people have been found guilty. And if you claim that he's been treated better, that only tells us how much worse it is in the rest of the prison. At this point in time, Mr. Allen is presumed innocent. He should be compared to jail inmates who has a heightened access to attorneys, who is only a phone call away. So that it is being treated another inmates there means absolutely jack shit. And I believe it's still a lie. Then he continues to say he's not getting any ill treatment because he's the defendant in this case or for any reasons. Liar? Mr. McLeland, you're a liar. And so that's really the state's main role in this hearing, Judge, and that's the evidence the state intends to introduce. The court: all right, you may call your first witness, Mr. Rossi. Direct examination of Chief Deputy Toby Leazenby. Now, this is a character we know it's insanity because I believe in a later, it might be this one, or it is a later hearing, where he claims that the defense witness didn't want to come to the hearing, and it was on the order of Judge Gull that he didn't have to drag him out of the cell to attend the hearing to testify. Judge Gull claimed, I never made that order. So one of them are lying, Judge Gull or Mr. Leazenby. One of them are lying. Why do I think Judge Gull is lying? Because she didn't do anything about this. Nothing. Leazenby claimed it was on her order. She says Mr. Leazenby is lying, but she still did nothing. Have you ever heard of a judge who hears about somebody lying about an order and then does nothing? All right, let's continue here. Mr. Rossi, thank you. I would call Chief Deputy Toby Leazenby. Witness sworn. Mr. Rossi, 1 second, Your Honor. The court, take your time. Questions by Mr. Rossi, and here I'm going to go QA, QA, QA. Q, all right, what's your name? A, Toby Leazenby. Q, and Mr. Leazenby, just tell the court what's your current occupation and position. A, I'm currently with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office serving as appointed Chief Deputy by Sheriff Tony Liggett. Tony Liggett is another person who I believe should suffer in hell. Q. Okay. And is it fair to say, just to kind of get past the technicalities and formalities here, that you were the former sheriff here in Carroll County for several years? A. Yes, sir, between 2015 and 2022. Okay, so in November or in 2022, in late 2022, you were the acting sheriff. Is that right? A. The elected sheriff. Yes, sir. Q. Okay, and is it fair to say that you filed a motion essentially asking for a safekeeping order with this court back in November 2022? Yes, sir. Okay, and have you had a chance to review that motion in advance of coming in here today? Answer, briefly, yes. Q, okay, would it help you to have the motion in front of you as I ask you questions to refresh your memory? Answer, if I may, please. Mr. Rossi, may I approach? The court, you may. Q, just take a look at this document and let me know if you're familiar with that document. Answer, yes, sir, I'm familiar with this document. Q, okay. And isn't that the motion that I've just alluded to that was filed by you, signed by you, and filed back in November of 2022? Answer, yes, sir. Q, did you draft this motion yourself? Answer, actually, I had presented a similar motion to request, I should say, to the court. And as I recall, the court had actually come up or provided this particular document. That, folks, was Judge Diener helping the sheriff write the motion. That, in my opinion, is giving legal advice. That, in my opinion, is something judges are not allowed to do. Q. So let me see if I can ask a more direct question. Did you prepare that motion in your office on a computer, essentially? Answer, I prepared a similar motion to this. Again, the wording was adjusted by the court. Q, okay, so you prepared a document that we presumably don't have here today, right? Answer, I would assume so, yes. Q, okay, and you represented that document to the court? Answer, yes. Q, and then this was the result? Answer, right. Q, this document? Answer, yes. Q, and then you were asked to sign this? Answer, yes. Q, who asked you to sign this? The court. Q, who's the court? Answer, Judge Diener. Q, okay, and that's how this is essentially became to be? Answer, yes. Was there a process? Answer, yes. Okay, the information that's contained in this motion, did you offer up all the information? Or was some of that offered up by Judge Diener and others? Answer, the wording, if I understand you correctly, was was information that I had originally documented in a previous request. Q, okay. Answer. And so the wording was simply adjusted in this document, that the wording was the same. It's just that it was adjustment were made by the court with this document. Q. Okay, did you provide to the court any additional documentation in support of, I'm going to call these allegations, in support of these allegations before this document was finalized, let's say? Answer. Again, the only thing I recall is providing, again, similar information as it relates to the narrative in this document stating my concerns of security. Q. Okay, well, why don't we just try to get down to the brass tacks here? Did you offer up any emails with threats on Mr. Allen's life or on jail staff or anything like that to the judge with your original pleading? Answer. No, sir. The only thing that I had mentioned was obviously this being high profile. Again, it's similar to this wording. Q. Okay, so the way I understand this, you didn't offer up any supporting document at all other than just your thoughts about high profile cases in the media, all of which is frankly referenced in here. Answer. Yes. Q. You didn't receive, in advance of this particular circumstance, any audio threats from anyone that you shared with the judge? Somebody called your sheriff's department or said something on the phone? Answer. No direct threats to me as sheriff of the county. Q. Okay, did you provide up any kind of digital media communications or anything like that to the judge before this was finalized? Answer. No, sir. Q. All right. And you acknowledge that Mr. Allen ultimately was arrested, I think it was October 26. Does that sound about right, of 2022? Answer. Approximately, yes. Q. Okay, let me just direct your attention again to paragraph 3 of this pleading, if you would. Paragraph 3, I'm going to read it to you and ask you some questions about it, okay? Answer. Q. It says, quote, the defendant has been charged in a high-profile cause creating potential safety and security concern because of extensive coverage from an array of various media platforms, both mainstream and social, throughout this state, the United States, and the world. End quote. Are those basically your words? Answer, yes, sir. Question, okay. And so is it fair to say that your concern were based on potential threats, not any material threats to your life? Answer, correct. Or Mr. Allen's life? Answer, correct. Question, or the lives of any of the law enforcement officers involved in this case? Answer, correct. Question, let me direct your attention to paragraph 4. I'm going to read that to you and ask you some questions. You okay with that? Answer, yes, sir. Q. All right, paragraph 4. Quote, in that the defendant has been charged in said high-profile cause, it is felt by the undersigned potential safety and security concerns exists involving not only the defendant, but also jail facilities in Carroll and the White counties within the state of Indiana, end quote. Your words, right? Answer, yes. Q. Again, is there anything, was there? Strike that. Were there any specific material threats made on you, your staff, or on Mr. Allen's life that support those words? Answer, no, sir. I mean, this the safekeeping statute almost demands active threats. Q. Let me direct your attention to paragraph 5. I'm going to read that to you and ask you some questions. You okay with that? Answer, yes, sir. Q. Quote, because of the aforementioned reasons, as Sheriff of Carroll County, Indiana, I cannot provide the services, attention, or supervision necessary to protect or meet the defendant's needs or to ensure, protect, and guarantee the safety or security of the defendant's staff or facilities, end quote. Those are your words, right? Answer, yes, sir. Q. And do you acknowledge that there hasn't been any immediate threat on your facility even as we sit here today? Answer, yes. Q. Certainly not before this. Answer, correct. Q. Okay, so the crux of your motion was actually more along the lines of, Quote, hey, judge, I just don't have the manpower, so to speak, to deal with this. Can you help? End quote. Is that a fair kind of summary? Answer, a portion. Yes. Question, all right. So is it accurate to say, well, strike that. Is it accurate to say that after Mr. Allen's arrest, that he was actually moved out of Carroll County and detained somewhere else? Answer, yes. Question, and did that happen basically immediately? Answer, yes. Q, did you make those arrangements with the sheriff of White County to have that done? Answer, yes, sir. Question, okay, so that was all kind of coordinated ahead of time. Answer, yes. Question, and so did he ever actually spend any time in the Carroll County jail? Answer, as I recall, maybe one night. Question, and so tell the court what arrangement you made to have him placed in White County. Answer, just a matter of simply having direct communication with Sheriff Bill Brooks and explaining my concern of potential safety and security of our facility and ask him if he could temporarily hold Mr. Allen for us. Q, okay, and were you confident that Mr. Brooks and his facility was adequate to hold him on a temporary basis? Answer, at that time, yes. Q, did you have any belief or any information that suggested that he was going to be moved somewhere else within a day or 5 or 10 or any amount of time? Answer, potentially involving the safekeeping aspect. I felt at some point he might be moved. Question, but you didn't have any guarantees at that point. Answer, correct. Question, do you routinely move offenders from your jail to other jails in the normal course of business? Answer, yes, sir. Question, is that sometimes based on overcrowding? Answer, mainly because of overcrowding, yes. Question, is it also sometimes based on the fact that you might have a co-defendant in your jail and you can't really have co-defendants in the same airspace? Answer, correct, sir. Question, are there ever reasons why inmates get moved around to other jails? Answer, those are the two primary. Okay, your jail happens to be unusually small, right? Is that? Answer, very small, sir. Question, yeah, one of the smaller ones in the state, I assume. Answer, correct. Our maximum capacity is 34. Question, okay. So do you routinely lean on White County, for example, to house inmates for you? Answer, mainly White County, and then sometimes either Tippecanoe or Clinton? Question, I'm sorry, could you say that again? Answer, sometimes also Tippecanoe or Clinton counties. Question, okay, Tippecanoe is a pretty expensive jail with a lot of resources, right? Answer, right. Question, and White County is a newer facility as well? Answer, newer compared to ours, yes. Question, sure. Okay, they have more resources over there. Answer, yes. Question, do you ever farm anybody out of Cass County? Answer, we have had a few. In fact, we may have 1 or 2 there now. Okay, and they got much larger facility than you have. Answer, newer addition, yes. Question, okay, and just recently opened, right? Answer, yes. All of these folks are jails that he's talking about. All of these are jails. But he wasn't moved to a jail. He was basically shot into a prison. Maximum security prison. In solitary confinement. With extremely limited access to his attorneys. Extremely limited access to family. The state did everything to keep Mr. Allen away from his attorneys. Question, in the last few months? Answer, yes. Question, in fact, right. Answer, right. Question, okay, is it fair? I'm looking at paragraph 7 of this pleading. If I could draw your attention to that. Take a look at that and let me know when you're ready. Answer, yes, sir. Question, so is it fair to say that at the time that you filed this motion, that you were willing to accept responsibility for transporting Mr. Allen to and from wherever he ended up? Answer, yes, or coordinating with Department of Corrections. Question, okay, so it says here, quote, I will be responsible for transporting or for coordinating, end quote, right? Answer, right. Question, so you're willing to be a part of all that? Answer, yes. Q, at the time when you petitioned the court, did you have any interest in ensuring that Mr. Allen was going to be treated like other pre-trial detainees? Answer, that's the ultimate goal, if you will, for all detainees is the safety and security of those individuals, so that would include Mr. Allen. Question, so the answer is yes? Answer, yes. Question, did you ever go to Westville to visit that facility before he was transported up there? Answer, no. Question, since he's been there, have you ever gone up there, not necessarily to visit Mr. Allen specifically, but to go up and take a look at the circumstances under which he is detained? Answer, no, sir. Question, and you're aware, you've been aware, I assume, for several months now, that there's been an ongoing, call it a feud, if you will, about this detention circumstances? Answer, from what I've seen of media reports, yes, sir. Question, okay, are you aware of anyone else in your department that has gone up to Westville to visit Mr. Allen? Not him and talk to him, but visit and inspect the circumstances up there since he was arrested? Answer, I'm not aware. No. Question, was it brought to your attention at some point that I worked out an arrangement to have Mr. Allen moved? Answer, yes. Okay, and was it your understanding that Mr. McLeland was okay with that occurring? Answer, it's my understanding. Mr. McLeland's position was that was a sheriff decision. Question, okay, you have not heard that he was okay with that. You think he was? Answer, no. Q, punting to the sheriff's department. Answer, right. Question, okay, and is it your understanding that the court was amenable to doing that at some point? Answer, I mean, I know that the court has entertained the request, but I don't know the court's position. Question, okay, all right. You acknowledge that Cass County was really the centerpiece in terms of where to try to move Mr. Allen when these discussions were ongoing? Yes. And that's a facility that's roughly how far from here? Time-wise, roughly 20 minutes. Mr. Allen could have been 20 minutes from his attorneys all along. They still chose to put him in a max prison, maximum security prison in solitary confinement, guarded by ordinance guards and volunteer inmates. Question, and was there a point in time where you were involved in any decision as to whether or not to move into Cass County? Answer, no. Question, okay, was that presumably your superior? Answer, yes. Question, Sheriff Liggett. The cunt basket Sheriff Liggett. Answer, yes. Q, okay, do you have a transport officer that works at the jail, or did you when you were sheriff? Answer, yes. As a full-time officer? Yes. Okay, does that transport officer travel to and from various jails and prisons, picking up moving offenders and things of that nature? Answer, yes, however. However, I should interject that due to, like many county jails, due to low labor force, if you will, that individual's been placed into a rotation. So we utilize him randomly when we can. So like now, he is in and out, if you will. Question, okay. But that's something that's normal in jail systems, right? I mean, you're constantly moving inmates around. Answer, sure. Question. All right. Do you have any kind of emergency response unit or SRT team or anything like that that works for the sheriff's department? Answer. No, sir. Question. Like a drug interdiction team that serves warrants on an emergency basis? No, sir. Question. So if you're dealing with high-profile stuff where you're serving a warrant and they're suspected to be guns and drugs, do you seek out the assistance of other agencies? Answer. Yes, sir. Question. And is that something that you do routinely in this business? Yes, sir. Let's talk about attorney-client visits at the Carroll County Jail, okay? Answer. Yes. Yeah. Question. Do those happen fairly regularly? Answer. Yes, sir. Question. And when attorneys visit the jail, is it fair to say basically you walk in and you push a button and talk to the jail staff and they make arrangements for you to come in and visit your client? Answer. Yes, sir. Question. And is it fair to say that that's really not any more complicated than parking on the street down here, right in front of the door, and just walking 10 or 15 yards in the door? Answer. Yes. Question. Are you aware of any circumstances where attorneys that enter your jail to speak with clients are patted down, or they walk through a metal detector, or anything like that in advance of meetings? Answer. They're asked if they have any, items of potential contraband or cell phones, or asked to leave cell phones outside of that meeting room. And so overall, security-wise, yes, they're not necessarily patted down, if you will, but simply asked to if they have any particular items on them. Question, forgive me, but I've obviously been in that jail and visited with clients before. Do you agree that a lot of those meetings happen in the room? There's kind of a library in your jail where there's a big table and some chairs? Answer. Correct. Question, is it a fairly sizable room? Answer. Yes. Question, and it's a pretty comfortable place to sit and communicate with clients, right? Answer. Right. And that's kind of the norm when attorneys come to visit, right? Answer. Correct. Let me see if I can find a picture for you. This is the cage they put Rick Allen in to communicate with his attorneys. He was shackled, feet, hands on a box on his stomach. He wasn't shackled like this. He was shackled like this. Or like this. Down on his stomach. That cage was not big enough for Mr. Allen to either stand up straight in or sit down in. That's torture, folks. That's torture. So compare that with, there's a kind of library in your jail where there's a big table and some chairs. A fairly sizable room, pretty comfortable place to sit and communicate with clients, right? Now remember what McLeland said in his argument with the court, that Rick Allen is treated better than other inmates. Well, apparently, Mr. McLeland, I hope those hair plugs of yours, I hope they're rot. And you don't know this until it's too late. He's not treating better than other inmates. because he should be treated equal to people in jail. Question: are you aware of any circumstances with any of your staff or Sheriff Liggett staff now, I understand this transition, have mandated that these visits be video recorded by your staff? Answer: I mean, obviously we have cameras in our facility, but I mean, I'm not aware of any mandated recording. Question: where one of your jail staff holds a camcorder and walks around and follows the inmate and attorney and videotapes his stuff? Answer: nothing I've ever witnessed. Say that again, please. Nothing I've ever witnessed. Question: okay, do you believe that there are visits that occur with inmates routinely where the inmates are not shackled? Let's say like Mr. Allen is here today. Answer: within the confines of the building, correct. Yeah, they are not shackled. That is Mr. Allen's shackles. On his stomach, one hand up, other down. He can't move anything. But in jail, interviews without shackles. And yet McLeland says he was treated better than other inmates. Question: no legs shackles? Answer: right. The only time we obviously utilize that type of equipment is when we go outside of the building with the defendant. Question: sure. So no belly chains? Answer: no. Question: no handcuffs, box handcuffs like he's wearing today? No. Do you ever see anybody moved around the jail with a leash or a chain on hooked to them where an officer is walking them around? Answer: not within the building, no. Question: that would be a very unusual in terms of attorney-client visits in your jail? Answer: right, yes. Question: very convenient to walk in there and meet with the client and have discussions, right? Answer: yes, sir. Question: and do you agree that lawyers are able to bring documents in like discovery? Correct. Laptops? Yes. You know, anything that they basically needs, pens, pencils, those kinds of things? Yes. And does your staff there allow inmates to drink water when they're meeting with the lawyers? Is there any problem with that? No. I mean, just basic needs, right? Right. To have a conversation with a lawyer. Correct. All right. Mr. Rossi, may I approach? The court, you may. Let me hand you what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit A. It's just a photograph of Mr. Allen. I'm sure you recognize that. Answer: yes or no, just because we're trying to pick up a recording? Yes, sir. Okay. And you acknowledge that that's a photo that was taken of him while he was incarcerated up in Westville? Yes, I understand that. Okay, and you know that I've taken some exception to this photo, right? Yes. And primarily the condition of his clothing and just the way he looks? Yes, sir. You see his clothing on Defendant's A? Yes. It's obviously soiled and discolored and stained? There appears to be, yes. I mean, is this the kind of clothing you would see on your inmates at the Carroll County Jail? Do they look like this? Answer: no, sir. Question: you would wash clothes and give them new clothes? Answer: they routinely do that. They look like this? Yeah. You take care of your inmates? I always try to, yes. Move to admit A. And I do believe it's this photo they are talking about. Mr. McLeland, no objection, Judge. The court of right, without objection, A is admitted. Defendant's Exhibit A admitted. Mr. Ozzy, I have no further questions. Cross-examination of Chief Deputy Toby Leazenby. Folks, I don't think Leazenby is lying here. And I don't think he was lying about Judge Gull telling the prison it was okay for the defense witness to stay in his cell. I think it's Judge Gull who is just evil. The court, Mr. McLeland. Mr. McLeland, thank you, Your Honor. Cross-examination. Q. Deputy Leazenby, first of all, how many years in law experience, or how many years have you been a law enforcement officer? Answer, 37. Q. 37 years. And for some of that time, you were the elected sheriff. Is that correct? Correct. Question. Throughout that time, you've always dealt with offenders, inmates, people who are charged with various offenses. Yes, sir. And also people that have been convicted of those offenses. Yes, sir. Question. Even at the Carroll County Jail, people that are convicted are held there weeks, months, sometimes years after their conviction. Is that fair? Correct. Majority. Is it fair to say the majority of the cases that we have in Carroll County are drug-related, OWI, theft, level felony, and minor misdemeanor cases? Is that fair to say? Yes. We don't have someone who is at least alleged to have committed a murder of 2 little girls. Correct. In this county. Correct. Have you ever had that in your experience? We have had homicide defendants, yes, in our jail. Question. And given the notoriety of this case and the kind of level of media attention in this case, when Mr. Allen was taken into custody, did you have concerns about his safety? Yes. Now, you had no direct threats of that concerned his safety. Is that correct? Correct. But you were concerned that he may be in danger. Right. Were you concerned about him being in danger from other inmates? Potentially. Question. Our jail doesn't have the Carroll County Jail doesn't have a segregation unit. Is that correct? Correct. And so he would have been housed with other inmates. Correct. And did you have a fear that there might be some kind of retribution from those other inmates against Mr. Allen? Potentially, yes. Did you have a concern that when he was transported back and forth to the courthouse, there may be issues? Yes. Now Mr. Rossi asked you about the transport officer. Typically, when you have a transport officer, how many people go to transport another inmate? Usually, it's a one-on-one or one-on-two or more sometimes. Q. And you talked about staffing issues. I guess there's been nobody who's been exempt in the sheriff's office at this point who hasn't had to transport somebody. Correct. You included, right? Correct. The sheriff included. Right. And so typically when you transport somebody, it's a one-on-one situation. Correct. Would you feel at the time you filed this, did you feel comfortable transporting Mr. Allen in a one-on-one situation? Answer, no. The visitations with attorneys and clients, those are videotaped, correct? Yes, they have. Q. There's no audio, but answer, there's video. Image videotaping of those meetings. Why is that done? They are talking about that surveillance camera up in a corner. Not somebody walking around with a camcorder actively trying to record what's being said. Answer again, that's mainly for, if you will, to monitor, mainly for the safety and security of not only the facility, but that individual, that is, because we have the individuals act out against their attorneys, and so we want to obviously provide for the safety of the attorneys coming into the building as well, or anyone visiting the inmate. Question, sure. And did you, when you filed the motion, those safety concerns were in front of your mind when you filed the motion? Answer, yes. Question, and you didn't make the decision to grant the safekeeping? Is that fair? That's correct. The court did that, right? Right. And a reminder, folks, that safekeeping order was held ex parte. Mr. Allen wasn't there, and Mr. Allen's then attorney wasn't even told they were having a safekeeping meeting. Everything about that was ex parte. But you filed the motion with your concern and outlined those concerned in the motion. Correct. Before you signed the motion, did you review it? Yes. And so there may have been some, I guess, corrections or additional language added to the motion before you signed it, but you had an opportunity to review it before you signed it. That's still the judge giving legal advice. That's correct. And did you firmly believe in the statements in that motion were correct? I did. And did you believe those statements in that motion when you signed it? I did. Have you asked the Department of Correction to house people for safekeeping purposes before? Answer, yes. And in other cases, when you do that, do you go inspect the facilities at DOC before they're transported? Typically, I have not. I must comment that I've been to Westville, although some time ago, but I know the general layout, if you will. Sure. Of that facility, and so, but this particular case, I did not, because I have faith and trust in the Department of Corrections. That's nice bootlicking. Question, sure. And I guess my word were the question better. Was it routine for you to go inspect the facilities at DOC before you asked that an inmate be transported for safekeeping? No. It was even unusual to me that you would ask for a safekeeping order and before the transported go to that facility, check out to see if it meets your standards, I suppose, and then allow the inmate to be transported. Answer again, I have trust in the Department of Correction. Sure. And their facilities and resources. Sure you have. Mr. Rossi has asked you about if inmates are shackled or handcuffed in your facility. Have you had occurrences where you had a high-risk inmate where they are shackled during internal visits? Answer, if we have, it's been some time ago. I can't recall any recent specific incident. Question, would it be did you know, was it your policy when you were the sheriff to have, if there's a high-risk defendant, that they be restrained in some way when they visit with their attorney? Answer, yes. Mr. McLeland, I don't have any other questions, Judge. This is McLeland making excuses. He knows there's, and it's not even in the same ballpark. It's not even in the same. It's not the same sport. What between a jail 20 minutes away, even within an hour away, and a max security prison. The court, Mr. Rossi. Redirect examination of Chief Deputy Toby Leazenby. Question by Mr. Rossi. Question, have you had murderers housed in your jail in the past? Yes. And do. Mr. McLeland asked you if you had any direct threats, and you acknowledged that you hadn't had any direct threats on his life or yours on anybody else's, right? Right. Did you have any indirect threats on his life or yours or anybody else's? Not indirect, but I guess I would say rumors or social media innuendos. Question, okay, did you send law enforcement teams or authorities out to act on those? Answer, no, because we weren't fully aware of the actual location of those individuals. People online talking smack. Question, and let's talk about when he was transported to White County. Were you aware of the circumstances under which he was housed in White County, the White County jail? Answer, as far as specifically where he was placed. Yeah. Within White County? No. Again, I obviously have trust and still do have trust in Sheriff Bill Brooks. Questions, you didn't go over there either. Answer, no, but I know their facility. Okay. Yeah. But you're aware that he was isolated over there. Answer, again, once he was turned over to Sheriff Brooks, at that point, that was his call. It's his building. You don't even know? I don't. Did you attempt to call any other sheriffs in any of the other surrounding counties, maybe Tippecanoe, for example, to try and work some long-term arrangement out for him? No. And Mr. McLeland asked you about transportation. You said you have this one officer. Does your department routinely ask for assistance from other law enforcement agencies in the course of your business? Yes. And you could have sought out that assistance in terms of transporting him, right? Potentially, yes. I mean, the state police has been intimately involved in this case for the past 5 or 6 years, right? Right. They have far greater resources than your staffing has, right? Right. And your department has? Yes. Would have been an option? Potentially. Mr. McLeland asked you whether or not it would have been, or whether or not it would have been routine for you to inspect the facility. Do you recall that question? Yes. And your answer was no. If you had to do it over again, would you now think about inspecting, having been through all this? No. Mr. Ross, you're right. I have nothing further. Mr. McLeland? McLeland, Judge, yes, if I may. Now, this goes to... There's plenty of jails in Indiana, in the surrounding counties of Carroll County, that could have housed Rick Allen. They chose prison because, in my opinion, they were planning on breaking Mr. Allen. And that is much easier in a prison where they know they have voluntary inmate guards. They must have known about the Odinist guards. I mean, they walked around in the open with Odinist patches on their uniforms. And remember, folks, in this case, everybody, Holman, Liggett, McLeland, everybody was aware of the Odinist theory. And they still housed him in a maximum security prison with Odinist guards. That was planned, in my opinion. All right, recross. Sheriff Leazenby or Deputy Leazenby, do you have concern of Mr. Allen's safety today if he's placed in the Carroll County Jail? I do, because of a combination of several things. Staffing, the concern of additional inmates, and not knowing, and if I may speak, it was a proactive effort on my part in addressing this. Question, you had to act quickly. Is that fair in saying? Yes. He was arrested? Yes. There was concern if he was housed in your jail. What was the concern for his safety? That another inmate would act out against him? Inmate or potentially any, outside sources, not knowing, who may carry through with some type of outside threat? This crime was closely connected to our community, right? A lot of people involved, yes. A lot of emotion involved, right? And rightly so, yes. And so did that house some of your fear that someone may become too emotionally involved and out in an appropriate way against Mr. Allen? Correct. And is that fear still there today, still present today? Yes, I would say so. As more evidence comes out, yes. Would you say your fear is going to be heightened or diminished? I would say heightened. And let's be clear. The admission he's making in DOC, once those come out, right, that he's admitted to these crimes, right, once that information is public. Mr. McLeland, don't you have a gag order? Why are you always referencing for this information will get out if you have a gag order? Is that because your office actively leaked all the fucking time? You cunt. Heighten it. Mr. McLean, I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Chief. You may step down. Thank you. And then they're calling Max Baker. Jesus. Question by Mr. Rossi. What's your name? My name is Max Baker. And Max, if you would tell the judge where you live. I live in Logansport, Indiana. Okay, and Max, how are you involved in this circumstance? Just give the judge some background. I began working as an intern at Brad Rossi's office around November last year on this case, just helping him with the burden. There's a lot of work to do on this case, so you need an intern to help lighten the load a bit. Okay, so tell the judge what your highest level of education is. I have my high school diploma from Logansport High School, and I'm currently a junior at Indiana University, Bloomington. All right, so you'll be graduating after next year, right? Yes or no? Yes, sorry. No, that's all right. Had you worked in other law offices even before you worked for me? Yes, last summer I worked with Mark Lehman, an appeals attorney in Logansport, Indiana, and yeah, that's about it. Okay, do you have some general, intention to pursue an occupation in the legal industry? Yes, once I finish my undergraduate degree, I hope to attend law school. Okay, and just tell the judge generally what your nature of your involvement has been in this case. Well, it began with helping with the change of value motion. And then once we started getting discovery in, obviously the discovery in this case is pretty massive. So I began to help process that and digest a lot of that information. That is my main role, but another one of my roles has also been helping Brad visit and speak with Rick on occasion. Okay, and is it also true that you've been working with some of the people, most of the people behind me that are kind of sitting here, part of our support staff? Yeah, it's been a group effort, yeah. Okay, have you also been privy to some of the discussions and conversation about Mr. Allen's detention situation and trying to get him moved to another facility? Yes, I have. Have you had a chance to visit? I think you said you did, but have you? How many times would you estimate that you visited Mr. Allen up to today's time? I have visited Rick 4 times while he's been incarcerated. And can you generally just give the judge some idea of the time frames? I don't expect you to recite the exact dates, but yeah, just give her some idea. Absolutely. So the first visit was on my Christmas break. It was around Christmas time of December last year. And then my last 3 visits has all been in the month of May of this year, once I got back from college. So 1 visit around Christmas and 3 in the month of May. Yeah. Tell the judge, just for you, and well, is it fair to say that you visited with me? We're going together every time that you've gone. Yes. All right. Tell the judge what it takes for you, and just generally to get in Rick's airspace, to get a place where we can talk to him. Do you want me to? It has changed during my visits. Well, let's talk about distance and time and things like that. Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's about an hour and a half drive from Logansport to Westville. That's been a little longer recently because they've been doing some construction on the roads in between here and there. But yeah, I mean, usually we have to call and give them advance notice that we will be going. And they have to make preparations, that sort of thing. But yeah, it's a pretty far drive, longer with detour now. Question. And so when we get to the prison, give the judge some idea of what initially occurs. Well, let's just strike that. Let's talk about the first visit back in December. Do you recall that visit? Yes. Tell the judge what you remember about us getting access to Mr. Allen during the first visit. Answer. Out of all of the times we went, it was the least complicated process. Basically, we just kind of walked in. Rossi showed his identification. I embarrassingly forgot my wallet that day, left it at the office, so I didn't have my identification with me. So I told the lady at the front desk my name, and that's really all we had to do. And then we were put in a van and driven to Rick's area of the prison. What did they take us, if you recall? Laptops, phones, work material, I mean, all different sort of things. None of our bags were searched or anything like that. Yeah, there wasn't any kind of shakedown that occurred in front of the, absolutely not, no, front gate or anything like that. No. All right. And where did we visit with him, if you recall? We visited, I do believe it was the captain's office. It was somebody's office. It was a pretty large room with a large kind of table in the middle of it. And how would you describe Rick's physical appearance and demeanor at that visit? Answer. I mean, he kind of looked like he always looked. I mean, he was not long into his stay at the correctional facility. It's not much about his physical appearance had really changed. He was still, had some weight to him, still looked healthy. His demeanor was pretty normal, albeit, I mean, he was obviously undergoing a lot of stress and that sort of thing. But he looked healthy and normal from what I saw. And in terms of communicating with him, not specifically, but was he communicative, I should say? Absolutely, I would say. Okay, were we having productive exchanges, attorney-client exchanges? Yes. And tell the judge what you recall about the presence of other officers during that first visit, other prison staff. So yes, Rick, every time I basically went, he's been escorted by, I would say, 4 to 6 guards. And during our meetings, usually some guards hang around where we were meeting. The first meeting, the door was slightly ajar, and a couple of guards were propped up outside. And I knew that because I could hear their kind of conversation from time to time. They were eavesdropping. That's the word for it. When clients and attorneys are meeting, you don't leave the door open. But they did. Okay, and so eventually you said that the next, I think, 3 visits you had were in the month of May. Yes or no? Oh, sorry, yes. Okay, let's talk about those visits. Tell the judge, were there changes in the ways things occurred at the prison in May? Yes, there were massive differences. Okay, let's talk to the judge about the front gate and kind of what changed in the terms of us getting there. Oh yeah, so at the front gate, identification was absolutely required. Bags were searched. We were not allowed to take our phones in. We were not allowed to take our watches in. We were not allowed to take our laptops or computers in. We got patted down by an officer there, had to go through metal detectors. It was a completely different process, yes. Yeah, because between December and May, 6 months, the defense attorneys have filed an enormous amount of motions. They were stirring up. Holman, McLeland, and everybody else. Oh shit! They found out we hide things from them. Oh crap! They found that thing. They found this thing. They are about to find those things that we have actively been trying to hide from the defense. And all of a sudden, Rick is treated extremely bad. Pre-planned. They were taking out on Rick because the defense attorneys didn't do what they hoped they would do. Just roll over, get Rick to a plea deal, and make it all go away. This is where I would say what happened in that prison is borderline attempted murder. Pushed him into an active psychosis and then drugged him. Then Dr. Walla whispering in Rick's ear about how he should confess. All because the attorneys did their job. And they couldn't have it. Question. What were we required to do with our phones? We were required to leave them in the car. We couldn't even have them in the building at that point. Yeah, I remember you had asked if you could put them in a locker, and that request was denied. They have lockers for personal belongings right next to the check-in. Okay, so where did we meet with Rick, if you recall, during these May visits? I believe we met in a therapy it was another type of office, but this one was much, much smaller. It was, I would say, about half the size of the original one. Was that therapy? Was that Dr. Walla's office they met in? Where she, Dr. Walla, may or may not have had recording devices? Okay, can you just describe to the judge, as we're sitting here, to the best of your ability, how big of a room we are talking about? I would say 12 by 6. I mean, not big at all, I mean. Okay, adequate to meet somebody, right? Yeah. But it was a different room altogether, yes. And describe to the judge what his escort was like, if it was any different than the first time to the room. Oh yeah, this time there was a video camera that was recording Rick. One of the guards was walking behind him, recording him as he was being taken to our meeting room. All right, and when you say a video camera, I mean it's kind of old-fashioned, but it was a camcorder, is that right? Yes, yeah, all right. And so is this the first time you ever seen this video camera as part of this narrative? Yes. All right, tell the judge how the video camera was employed, so to speak, by the prison staff throughout the visit. Answer. So yeah, during our conversations with Rick, there was this pretty big window that overlooked the room. Rick was sat in a plastic chair with no armrest in the middle of the room, and for the entirety of our conversation with our client, the camcorder was held outside the window, kind of bearing down directly at him. Question, how far was the camcorder from your notepad and your body, so to speak, your person, if you could estimate? It was a couple of feet. I kind of had to, because the desk was behind, I kind of had to lean over just to make sure that none of my notes were being picked up or anything like that. All right. So you see it, I did actually. Do you recall me asking to have him sit? Well, strike that. Were there other chairs in the room? Yes. Tell the judge what the room was like. So you have the desk, which I was sitting at, which was right next to that window where he was being recorded from. That desk had kind of a spinny office chair, and then to the left of that, by where the door we entered was, there was just two just cushioned kind of regular chairs. And then there was another desk to the right of the room that also had another kind of spinning desk chair. Yeah, I would say this is Dr. Walla's office they were in. Or where she had her sessions with Rick. All right. And so did I at some point make a request to just have him sit in one of the office chairs? Yeah, in our second visit, you requested that he sit in one of the padded chairs to the left of the room. All right. What was the reaction? They told you no, and they brought in the plastic chair for him to sit in that I referenced to earlier without the armrests. Can you speak up a little bit? Oh, yeah. They said no, and they brought in the plastic chair that I referenced earlier without the armrest on it. Okay, where they put the plastic chair? Right in the middle of the room. And where was it relative to the camera? I mean, directly facing the room. So he's looking essentially right into the camera the whole time. Yes. How far away was he, if you could estimate? 5, 10 feet? Okay, pretty close. Yes. And so is it fair to say the whole time we're meeting with our client, we got a video camera sitting right behind your head, basically, on the other side of a window? Yes or no? Yes. And presumably recording what's going on in this room? Yes. All right. As far as his circumstances, was he shackled similar to the way he's shackled today? I would say exactly like how he is today, with the handcuffs, with the bar in between them, the ankle cuffs, and then the belly chain. Okay, so basically, is this the way you've seen him every time you've seen him? Yes. All right. And did you feel like in that room that there was any privacy whatsoever when we were meeting with him? Oh, absolutely not. No. Did you have any confidence at all that anything we were saying was that those windows were soundproof, or the door was soundproof, or anything like that? No. Did we have an additional meeting in that room at some point, a second one? Yes, yeah. All right. And do you recall there being any differences between the first meeting and the second meeting? No? Not, too many, maybe a couple. I know one we went with Andy. That was kind of the main difference in my mind. Okay, all right. You recall the environment in that room, whether or not it was hot, cold? On one of the occasions, it was a hot day out, but it was about 90, 95 degrees in that room. I left the conversation kind of dripping in sweat, basically. And the entire time, Mr. Alling is sitting in a plastic chair in the middle of the room facing a camera, right? Yes. With shackles on, leg shackles and a belly chain. Yes. Had that ever changed, No. Up in those two visits? No. All right. Did we visit again more recently? Yes. Approximately when was that? I think 30th of May. All right. So just about a week or two ago. Uh-huh. Yes or no? Yes, yes. Sorry. Okay. Tell the judge the purpose of that visit was. That visit consisted of a person visit with Kathy and her husband. We wanted to get Rick to see his wife because we thought it would be kind of a mood booster for him, help the cause. Well, let's talk about that. During the second and third visits, did you have a chance to observe his demeanor and his state of health? Oh yeah, Rick looked and sounded absolutely awful during the second and third meetings. He looked weaker. You could see today, he's lost so much weight. He just seems fragile. When he talks, he's much quieter than he used to be. Seems to be much more anxious about things, much more repetitive in his speaking, not really able to respond to questions consistently. It's like out of every 10 questions we asked him, we were getting a genuine response to. Yeah. He was in May in those chairs. He was in a psychosis, pumped full of Haldol. So was there really any ability to have a rational exchange with him in those two meetings? Not much at all, no. All right. So did we arrange this meeting with his wife to try and maybe pull him out of his funk? Yes. And that's what happened a couple of weeks ago, right? Yes. Tell the judge what you recall about us getting into the prison during that meeting and what was allowed and not allowed. A. The rules changed a little bit during that meeting, and we were allowed to take a computer in with a flash drive, but we were still not allowed to have phones, no watches, if I do recall correctly, and then we were still patted down and searched before we went in. All right. And when I recall there being a visit where actually there was, you're not going to be allowed in at one point. Do you remember that? Yeah, that. Which visit was that? That was the third visit, the one we went with Andy. For some reason, they said I was not on the guest list or something of that nature. And even when I showed them my identification, my driver's license, they informed me that I was not going to be able to go in until you and Andy made a couple calls. And about 30 minutes later, they let me go with you guys. So in fairness, we got it worked out. Yes, yes. But it was different than the times before, right? Yes. All right. And so getting back to his last visit, tell the judge where we visited Mr. Allen. So I'm guessing this is the room we visited him is the typical visitation room at Westville. It was kind of a house type of structure, and inside the building there were, I would describe lunch tables, kind of like my public school, and throughout for, different inmates, I'm guessing, to meet with family members and that sort of thing. And then the back of the room was filled with vending machines for snacks, water, that sort of things. And then there were two guards stationed in there when we got in, and so they brought Rick in, right? Uh-huh. Tell the judge what he looked like in terms of how he was being restrained is probably the word I was looking for earlier. Yes, he was still kind of restrained, how he's kind of always has been. On this occasion, though, I noticed that Rick's entire face was bruised and kind of looked scarring a little bit. He looked to be in horrible shape. Kind of looked like he got a really bad suntan, but you could tell it was all bruising. That is probably the effects of Rick banging his head and face against the wall. That is the shape he was in. And that is also the shape and psychosis he was in when he made what the prosecution later said was involving admissions with details only a killer would know, which we now know is completely fake. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I am talking about the white van that Rick allegedly had talked about. He was startled by a van. He ended the girls, threw some sticks off them, and took off. Now we know that Brad Weber, the lying sack of shit, who back in 2017, he said he was nowhere near the crime scene at the time they believed the girls were murdered. He was around because he had a job of what was it? Servicing ATMs. That, so he was ruled out as any kind of suspect. But all of a sudden, at trial, yeah, he was there, roughly at the time, and he drove the van. And after trial, there was surveillance video of something looking like a white van driving close to the Monon High Bridge. But it wasn't at the time of the kidnapping. It was at least, at the minimum, 15 minutes later. Meaning that there's no way Rick could have been startled by the van committing the acts, fucked off at the time the prosecution claimed, because the van was never there at that time. So in all of the so-called admissions from Mr. Allen, there is not a single detail that tells us, yeah, he did this. But we will get there eventually. But just a crime scene, that took, what happened at the crime scene took time. It wasn't just, oops, startled, slit, fuck off. No. That crime scene is a complicated crime scene. So no, Rick's confessions, in my opinion, once you actually read them, it's not him, folks. It's not him. Let's continue. Okay, let me go back to one of these visits real quick, and let me ask you about his clothing. Was there a time when you noticed, you pointed out that there was considerable change in his appearance? Yes. Tell the judge what you remember about that. On the second and third visits, Rick's clothing appeared to be brand new each time, like they had just gotten his outfit out of the box. He wore white sneakers each time, which were extremely bright, looked like they had been bought at the store, something like that. So there was a massive change in the quality of clothes he was wearing from my first visit to my second and third visits. Question, and was that? Did those occur after I filed this motion alleging some of these concerns that we had? Yes. All right, did that strike you as being kind of odd? Yeah. So then going back to his last visit, did we make arrangement for Kathy through the prison for her to visit? Yes. Okay, so where were, tell the judge where they were seated and what the logistics were surrounding their actual visit. Okay, So they were seated kind of to the right side of the room, directly across from each other. One of the guards that brought Rick in was seated 5 to 10 feet away from them, basically close enough to hear, I would assume, every aspect of their conversation, whether they were whispering or not. There was another guard on the far left side, and then 2 guards at their desks, who I think are normally stationed in that area. And then a couple of guards came in and out while they were meeting. Question. Those 2 gentlemen you mentioned, that were stationed on either side of him, were those people that routinely transport him? Yeah, those were the guards I have noticed routinely transport Rick. Okay, so was he allowed to have some interaction with Kathy? Yes. They were allowed to hug at the beginning and end of their meeting. Okay. Was he shackled? He was not handcuffed at that time. Okay. This is the first we've ever met with him when he didn't have any at least handcuffs on, right? Yeah. Do you remember seeing him walk in the actual facility? Yes. We were already there, right? Yes. When he came in, describe to the judge what he saw. When Rick walked in, the guards that were escorting him took him past Kathy to the left side of the room and brought him into this room. About 5 to 10 minutes passed, and then Rick came out with a completely different outfit. Okay, so they changed him, his clothes or something, right? Yeah. How is he restrained when they brought him in initially? Full shackles, if I remember correctly. Okay, so basically, he has leg shackles on, right? They were restricting his ability to walk. Yes. And he got these hand shackles on, right? Yes. He was always looking like I'm looking with one hand over the other as he is now. Yes. And he had a belly chain. Do you recall that? Yes. Do you recall him having a leash actually attached to him? Yes. On this occasion, they did have a chain leash that was attached to him. Yes. And where was that? What was that was going on with the leash? I just saw it was connected to the belly chain. Okay. Was an officer holding it, walking him, basically? Oh, yes, yes. Did it look like walking a dog? Yes. Did I say something to them? Yes, yes. Was I pretty upset about that? Yes, you were. So basically, he's walking around a jail, right? Yes. Like I am, small steps, and he's got a leash with somebody walking him on a leash? Yes. Am I exaggerating? Not really, no. How long did he meet with Kathy? About an hour. All right. And as we sat there, did the officer ever leave or go anywhere? No. I mean, where he would have had some privacy? No. The one officer that was next to him stayed next to him the entire time. All right. Was there anybody else in the building other than us and the people you described? No. They have closed down the visitation center for the hour, so it was completely dead quiet in the room. I mean, me and Brad were sitting pretty far away from where Rick and Kathy was, but even at time, I could hear aspects of their conversation. Okay, that's how quiet it was. It was quiet in there, right? Yes. Okay, and that were your observations of his physical condition at that point. Was it any different than before? Yeah, his entire face was bruised, as I briefly mentioned earlier. And I mean, every single time I visited him, and a couple of weeks passed, he just looked weaker and weaker and weaker. And this time he looked, I mean, awful. His entire face was bruised and just, yeah. Is it fair to say Kathy was pretty emotional? I mean, absolutely, yeah. I mean, she hadn't seen him in 7 or 8 months, right? Yeah. Also, something that is different between prison and jail. Families can visit in jail. Now, there are people out there who says, he could call her. That was controlled as well. But from the moment he was arrested until this meeting, they hadn't met. 7 or 8 months later. That is the state of Indiana through Judge Gould breaking him. and they broke him. Rick Allen will never be well again. I can say that already. After all they did to him in there, he will never be okay. Never. Yeah, I mean, yeah. While she was visiting with him, was there a point in time when she was just crying? Yes, yeah. And do you recall either her or somebody asking for some Kleenex, Rick or her? Yes. And what did they give her? They gave her a couple pieces of toilet paper. And tell the judge, do you recall at some point there being a request to just get some water? Yes. And who made the request? Rick or Kathy? I don't exactly remember. Okay, well, what was the reaction? There was a no. Just a flat no? Yeah, the request was denied. How far were we sitting from a water fountain? Not far at all. The officer that was right next to them was also right next to a water fountain. It was quite literally right behind him. How many requests were made for water while we were there? 2, if I remember correctly. And what was the response? Both were denied. And there's 7 or 8 full vending machines with Mountain Dew and Pepsi and Fritos and everything else on the back wall, wasn't there? Yeah. How that visit end? We spoke with Rick briefly, and then after Kathy and him had spoken, and then he was taken back to his cell, I'm assuming by the same officer that has escorted him in. And then we departed. Yes. And we haven't been back. We have not been back, no. Mr. Rossi, nothing further. The court, McClelland. Mr. McClelland, thank you, Your Honor. Cross-examination of Max Baker. Question by Mr. McClelland. Mr. Baker, you and I spoke before court. I think you're 20 years old, is that right? Yes. Besides working on this case with Mr. Rossi, have you worked on other criminal cases with him? Yes. And during your work on those other cases, have you had an opportunity to visit DOC facilities? I visited other facilities. I'm not exactly sure whether or not they were DOC facilities. Oh, sorry. Have you visited the Cass County Jail? Yes. Okay. Have you visited jails in other cities? Yes. Okay. During your time during those visitations, did you ever have an opportunity to sit or visit with somebody that had been accused of murder? Yes. And was it someone who had been accused of murder of 2 girls? You fuck twat. No. The first visit you had with Mr. Allen in Christmas, during Christmas of 2022, is that correct? Yeah, around that time. And the demeanor of the conversation between you and Mr. Allen, was that a normal conversation? Well, obviously a lot was going on in Mr. Allen's life, so he was a little anxious, and it wasn't a normal conversation, but it was much more normal than my later conversations. Let me rephrase. Did you introduce who you were? Yes. Did he introduce who he was? Yeah, probably. Okay. And then you visit him, it looks like 3 times in May. Is that correct? Yes. The first visit in May, was the interaction the same as it was at Christmas break? Absolutely not. Not. He didn't even remember who I was. And then the third and fourth visit, what were the interactions like? I mean, similar. I mean, even those times he didn't remember who I was. Question, and let me back up. Did you know Richard Allen before you got involved with this case? No. And so fair to say that you didn't know him before you visited him on Christmas of 2022. You didn't know what was normal behavior, what his normal look was like. You didn't know what was normal for him. Is that fair in saying? Sorry. I had to sneeze. For him, yeah. Okay, you're basing all the answers that you're given today on what you consider normal. I was more trying to compare between the different visits. But you throw out a lot of adjectives in there, you know. This was abnormal. This was normal. I'm quite sure those words weren't said. You're basing that on your experience, not your experience with Mr. Allen? Answer: I believe I'm basing it on my multiple experiences and comparing them. Mr. McLennan: okay, I don't have any other questions, Judge. Mr. Rossi: redirect examination of Max Baker. Max, you done hard work on this case, haven't you? Yes. And seen a lot of photos and video and watched a lot of interviews. Yes. Let me hand you what's been marked at Defendant's B. You recognize this photo? Yes. It's a picture of Mr. Allen a year or two before this. Prior to this. Yeah. And is this what you believe that he looked like when he was arrested based on everything that you've seen in thousands of pages of discovery? Yeah. Did he look like that in May when we started visiting him? No. Does he look like that? Looks like he does now, right? Yes. Move to admit B. Mr. McLeland, maybe a couple foundational questions, Judge. Court, yes. Mr. McLeland, did you take that picture? No. Mr. McLeland, how do you know when that picture was taken? To be fair, I don't. Okay, so you've just been told it was taken a year or two by Mr. Rossi. Yes. You don't know who took that picture? No. I don't have any other questions, Judge. No objection to the photo. All right. I'll show Defendant's B is admitted without objection. Question. Nick asked you about whether or not, Mr. McLeland asked you whether or not you had ever been to visit with somebody that was accused of murdering 2 girls. You remember that question? Yes. You ever been to visit with somebody that was accused of murdering a woman? Yes. And do we do that all the time? We've done that quite regularly since I started. Yeah. Where do we do that? I mean, it's nothing like how we meet with Rick. I mean, yeah. But where does that occur? It could occur multiple. It could occur in a room outside the courtroom when we are at a hearing for a case. I mean, okay. It's occurred in very more normal occasions. All right. Have you visited the Tippecanoe County Jail a whole bunch? Yes. In the last 6 months? Yes. And is that involving a case involving death? Yes. And when we go visit with that client, tell the judge what the circumstances are like. Answer. The client is by no means shackled. She is in a completely normal state of mind given her circumstances. She is able to sit right next to us, able to assist in her defense, write stuff down, all different sort of things. What kind of room are we in? I mean, we're just in normal kind of visitation room, I would assume, or we're in a rec room. I think the one time we visited the Tippecanoe jail. Right. There's a table there. Yes. And we're all sitting around the table. Yes. Got discovery laid out on the table. Yes. Having discussions with the client. Yes. Interacting in much more unrestrained circumstances. Absolutely yes. Mr. Rossi, I don't have anything further. Mr. McLeland, recross. Question. So, Mr. Baker, let's just address the elephant in the room. Your testimony here today is implying that if Mr. Allen were in another facility, his health would be better, his state of mind would be better, his clothes would be better. That's because you visited other people in other facilities and they're in a better situation, in your opinion, than Mr. Allen's. Yeah. McLeland, okay, I don't have any other questions, Judge. Okay, thank you, Baker. You may step down. Thank you. 1 second, Your Honor. Captain Gary Lewis, Your Honor. Witness sworn. Whew. First of all, thank you to Jersey Gen for your gifted membership. That is so generous of you. Yes, I have the opportunity to become a member on my channel, and it's $3 a month. And for that, you get early access to most, if not all, of my videos. You also have videos that are for members only. You also get your own emojis here on YouTube. And I will post a new, fresh link to my Discord. So that's a lot of things for $3 a month while you are supporting my channel. But thank you, Jersey Jam. That is very generous of you. And hello, Slidey Pie over at Rumble. Yes, also streaming this at Rumble. Oh. So The circumstances between jail and the circumstances with Mr. Allen are, it's insane that Mr. McLeland are even implying that he's been treating better than other inmates. Because I don't give, in this situation, I don't give a fuck about other inmates in a prison. How is Mr. Allen treated compared to people who are awaiting trial, who are in jail? That's the comparison that matters. Now, there's a bunch of people out there that sticks to Mr. McLeland's words like it's freshly ejected in their mouths. Because that is basically what these people are doing. They are gobbling down government cock. Treating every word as it's absolute. Oh, it's treating better than other inmates. Go fuck yourselves. Jesus Christ. I mean, it's embarrassing being... I mean, serious, don't you have any self-respect? Gobbling down government cock? Just believing every word just because it's from some government person? It's embarrassing. Grow up, for fuck's sake. That might... You're most welcome to clip that. And every time somebody makes that comment on social media, clip that and put that in an answer. And link them to my page. All right, let's continue. We're almost 2 hours in. We have a bunch of pages left. Direct examination of Captain Gary Lewis. Question, sir, would you please tell the judge your name? Gary Lewis. All right, and tell the judge where you work. Westville Correctional Facility. Okay. Mr. Rossi, or is the reporter picking this up? Can you hear him okay? Okay. And specifically, do you work on the maximum security unit at the facility? Yes, sir. Forgive me, I don't understand all the dynamics here, but I suspect that's where your primary responsibility is. Yes. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, and how long have you been on that unit? Going on 5 years. All right. Is there any more secure unit in all of Westville Correctional Facility than the unit you work on? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There's probably another lockup unit somewhere, but have you ever visited the rest of the facility? The rest of the facility? Yeah, Westville. Facilities or just my... Okay, we are. This is a retard. A clinical retard in uniform. No, it's not. It's just he doesn't like to be questioned. Question. Let me sure I asked the question correct. Is there, in the Westville Correctional Facility as a whole, is there another unit that's any more secure than the one you work on? No. Congratulations! You got an answer. Okay. Are you aware of any other unit in the state that's really any more secure than the one you work on? Maybe a couple. Okay. Have you worked at those? No. All right. And are you basically in charge of the unit at least during the day shift? Yes. Okay. I'm assuming there's another captain that may work in the evening. Yes. Okay. And is it fair to say that your unit is kind of located in the back of the property and is kind of its own separate facility? Correct. And in fact, to get there, you got to go through the front gate, right? The main front gate where everybody goes to visit. Is that right? Yes. And then you have to be transported by a vehicle and then go through 2 more gates and then into your facility. Yes. Okay, what is the purpose of your unit? To house incarcerated offenders that are disciplinary problems. Yeah, so Rick was immediately placed in the place with the maximum security within the maximum security, and his neighbors were offenders with disciplinary problems. Does that sound like they were trying to keep Rick safe? Jesus Christ. Question. I'm sorry, to House, I can't hear you very well. To House, I know you're soft-spoken, I'm sorry. To house all types of prisoners that have disciplinary problems. They could be safekeepings, they could be anyone, anywhere. Then send them throughout the state. That there's a problem or not a problem, well, I really can't identify what the problem is when they send them there. I just know they're in my facility and that's it. My bullshit. After over 30 years in law and thousands of cases sitting, for you who don't know, hi, I'm Nik. I do labor and employment law. I've been, after 30 years, having everything from stupid HR to high-end attorneys in opposing what I'm there for, and middle management and higher management. I've developed a bullshit meter that it's in my spine where it kind of tingles because, yeah, this is not behavioral analysis or anything of the sort. It's just something's really off here. And I have to say to you, Mr. What was his face? Gary Lewis? Yeah, you're full of shit. Okay, I try not to look at that. In the time that you've been there, have you ever housed an inmate that I would refer to as a pre-trial detainee? Somebody that's not been convicted of a crime and awaiting trial? Since I've been there? Yes. No. Didn't they made the inference that this happens all the time? And yet this guy has been there for 5 years. And this is the only one. Rick Allen. Question. This is the first, right? Yes. Mr. Allen's situation? Yes. And you see how he's restrained today, right? Yes. I mean, you're familiar with these restrained circumstances. Is that fair? Yes. And is this how he is restrained all the time whenever he's out of his cell? No. So he leaves his cell under different circumstances. Yes, it's not the same kind of restraint. It's not the same type of restraint. That isn't how he's restrained. Similar, but not the same. So why is he then restrained like that when he's meeting with his wife? Why is he always restrained like that when he's meeting with his attorneys? Okay, is it fair to say that this is what he looks like when he meets with us? Hey, does he have a black box on? He has a black box. Yes. Okay, leg shackles, black box. Yeah, body, belly chain, I think they call them. Yes, do. Now, just to be clear, under I know the judge knows this, but we're making a record. There's thousands of other inmates in the Westville Correctional Facility, right? Well, other than Mr. Allen. I work in a different facility. We only got 255 offenders max unit. Okay. So yeah, we got the whole Westville probably holds around 2,500, 3,000 people. Right. There's a fence that essentially separates your building from the other buildings in Westville. Yes. But all within the same perimeter. Yes. And do any of the other thousands of inmates, to the best of your knowledge, move around the facility looking like he does and restrained like he is? Answer. Okay, so the circumstances are a little different. Like, so when are you talking about when they come out of my facility and go somewhere else? Let me just give you a hypothetical, okay? When John Smith, who's housed on the other side of the fence, go to visit with his wife in the visitation, is he shackled like this? No. So that is a convicted person. But Rick, who is not convicted, has to wear it? Question, okay, is that part of the protocol for any of the other inmates that are on the other side of your fence when they go to visit? Answer, so here's the deal, like I know what they do over there, they don't, when offenders go to the visiting room, no, they're not restrained, but for my unit, if they go to the visiting room, they're restrained like that. Okay, so it's not treated the same as other offenders that are outside of your maximum security unit. Is that an accurate statement? That would be an accurate statement. Do you acknowledge that he always has leg shackles on when we meet him, right? Yes. And handcuffs. Do you call these box cuffs? No, that's called... What do you call those handcuffs? They're called handcuffs. Okay, but they have a box on them. They're different than others, right? Yes. He's all bound up in these chains, right? Yes. Belly chains. Is that what you call the chains that goes all around his waistline? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then I saw the other day he had a leash on him. What's the purpose of the leash? In the max control unit, if they escort them everywhere, that's the leash. It's called a lead. A lead? A lead. L-E-A-D. L-E-A-D. A lead. Yes. Yes. Like you would have on a horse or something. I don't know what's on a horse, but okay, that's what we carry. All right. Do you acknowledge in this particular circumstance that there was a time frame where you were videotaping? Your staff was videotaping our meetings with our client. I do recall. And have you ever recorded or have you ever ordered your staff to videotape a meeting with any other inmate in that facility? Have I ever done it? No. So how is he treated better than any other inmate, Mr. McLeland? Jesus Christ. Have you ever directed your staff members to videotape any other inmates in the facility when they're meeting with their lawyers? No. No other offender meets with anybody with the lawyers in my facility. You're going to have to speak up. No, we don't. No other incarcerated individual meets with a lawyer inside my facility. That's an interesting answer. So where do they meet? Question, do you believe that anybody that's outside of your walls, all these other thousands of inmates are being videotaped when they're meeting with their lawyers based on what you know about the prison setting? Answer, based on what I know, it's just a feeling here. I don't know. I'm not sure. No, probably not. Do you acknowledge that there are other inmates, that the other inmates in the facility have opportunities to visit family members in the visitation area? Yeah, I mean, they visit. We just had a visit about a week ago with Rick. Is that right? 2 weeks ago, maybe? Yes, maybe. I'm not sure. Yes. Okay, you were there, right? Yes, I was there, but I got a lot of things going on, Yeah, okay, that's fine. Do you acknowledge that the visit was different because it was set up and his wife was a part of that? Yes, it was different. And you essentially, the visit occurred in a different area of the prison, right? Correct. Which is what I assume is the normal visitation area for most people. You talked about where you at? Yeah, yes. And do you acknowledge that it was different because the room was totally empty? Answer, yes. And there were guards that were essentially positioned next to him, one right within arm's reach of him, right? Correct. And that was part of your protocol. Typical protocol? Question, yeah or not? Well, I don't know if it was part of the protocol, but he is different. I mean, I don't know how different in what way, but I don't know what the circumstances would be. But yes, it was a different visit for him. Yes, if you want to say that. One of the things that caught my eye was that he had to change clothes or something. Or, well, all visitors, all incarcerated visitors that visit have to change their clothes. That wasn't different. That part wasn't different. Okay, so they walked him into a room and he changed clothes, and that's part of the protocol. That's part of it. All right. Were you there when they asked for water? No? Okay. Is there any reason why you shouldn't be able to get a drink of water in that facility? For who? For Rick. I'm not aware of the rules that's in the visiting room. All I do is man the Westville Correctional Maximum Security Unit. Okay, but you've been in the room, right? Where? In that visit room. I've been there before. You were in there with us. Yes, I walked in. There's a water fountain right against the wall, isn't there? For visitors. And a bunch of vending machines. Correct. You recognize the word companion? Yes. You have a program at the prison that's called the Companion Program? Yes. And is that program one that you institute, or you use, I should say, in the Maximum Security Unit? Yes. And do you agree that, basically, you're posting an inmate, somebody from the facility, outside of the door of the detainee, in this case, Mr. Allen? So they are changing subject now. You are posting an inmate, somebody from the facility outside of the door of the detainee, in this case, Mr. Allen. Yes. And do you agree that is it accurate to say that program is in place because of staffing shortages and monetary challenges and things of that nature in the prison? Answer, I'm not sure about that. Okay, has Mr. Allen had a companion assigned to him since he's been in the facility? He has, but he switched to an officer. Okay, so it changed. Yes. All right, but at one point he had inmates that were sitting outside of his cell. Correct. Basically, and forgive me, I've not seen this, but my impression is that there's somebody posted essentially at his cell door to watch him. Correct. And those people communicate with each other. Correct. And they're not directly supervised by other officers. What people communicate? The companion communicates with Mr. Allen. They're just supposed to monitor any incarcerated offender that he's watching. Okay, but they can communicate. They're not supposed to talk. Yeah, but you fuckface aren't there to check on it, are you? Jesus Christ. All right, but they do talk, don't they? I don't know if they talk or not. If I see him talking, he's fired. I couldn't hear you. If I see them talk, if the officer would have seen him talking to whoever he's supposed to be watching, he's supposed to be relieved of his job right there. Okay, do you think there's ever been conversation between those inmates and the companions ever in your prison? I'm not sure. I don't sit there and watch them. Jesus Christ. Okay, how far away are they for the two bodies when that circumstance is occurring? From where he's sitting in front of the door to... Yeah, if he was standing at the door, how far would he be from the companion? Maybe a foot or two. 2 feet. Close enough to have a conversation? Right, but that would be close enough. 1 or 2 feet. Yes. To have a conversation? Oh, yes. And your staff can't monitor everything that's going on there, can it? It's impossible to monitor everything that goes on. Mr. Rossi, I don't have any further questions. Mr. McClellan, thank you, Your Honor. Cross-examination of Captain Gary Lewis. Captain Lewis, during the time that Mr. Allen's been on your unit, have you treated him differently than any other people on your unit? No, everyone's basically treated the same as far as the conditions. We don't treat anybody different, no. Have you treated Mr. Allen harsher compared to the other people that are on that unit? No, sir. Has Mr. Allen been placed in a cell that is, for lack of better words, worse than the other cells? No, sir. And so everybody on your unit is treated equal. And they're all given the same amount of rec time? Yes, sir. Are they all given the same access to commissary? Yes. Are they all given the same access to clothing? Yes. All the same access to shower time, correct? Yes. All the cells in your unit are identical? Yes. Folks, this is when, oh, he's not being treated than anybody else at Westville? No, you lying sack of shit. He's treated equal to people with disciplinary issues that has to be moved from Jan Pop over. That's not being treated better. That's been treated worse. And compared to people who are pre-trial detainees in the jail, are you serious? And the way they're set up with the bed, the toilet, everything that's in the cell, identical. Have you personally mistreated Mr. Allen in any way different from the other inmates in your unit? No. Mr. McLeland, I don't have any other questions, Judge. Mr. Rossi, the redirect examination. Question by Mr. Rossi. Do you have any other pre-trial detainees right now in that unit in pre-trial? No, none that I know. Tell the judge what kind of people are housed in your unit? What kind of convictions are normal for people that are housed in your unit? I'm going to withdraw that question. I'm going to get right to the meat of the matter. You have murderers in there? Yes, sir. Child molesters? Yes, sir. Basically, the worst of the worst in society? Yes, sir. Do you recall me asking to see his cell at one point when I visited with your staff with you at your facility? Uh-huh. And what was the response from the Department of Corrections through you? I understand that. Through me, it was a no. Ms. Rossi. Okay, and I don't have any further questions. Again, when McLeland says he wasn't, Mr. Allen wasn't treated any worse, or that he was treated better, how bad are the other people being treated in the max within the max? And that's a bad comparison. How was Rick Allen treated compared to pre-trial detainees in a jail? That is the only comparison that matters. Unless you're Judge Gould, then you don't care. Direct examination of Sheriff Edward Schroeder. The court, Mr. McLeland. Rossi, hold on a second. Oh. Question. Is there a detainee or an inmate on your unit right now by the name of Robert Baston? Yes, Mr. Rossi, nothing further. Mr. McLeland, I don't have any other questions, Your Honor. All right, thank you, Captain. You may step down. Oh no, this was the final part of Okay, now we start with direct examination of Edward Schroeder. Questions by Mr. Rossi. What's your name? Edward Schroeder. And Sheriff, tell the judge where you're employed. I'm currently the Sheriff of Cass County, Indiana. Okay. And just to get through some of the technicalities here. You were a state trooper for, I don't know, a long time, right? 30 years? Yes, sir. I retired from the state police after 31 years as a major. Okay. And so you were in charge of at least one post, if not others? Yes, sir. Okay. About 350 people? All right. And is it fair to say, well, just tell the judge real quick, what are your general responsibilities in Cass County as the sheriff? As the sheriff, I believe my duties are serve the courts, as well as general law enforcement and administrator, chief administrator of the Cass County Detention Jail Facility. And tell the judge, just as we sit here today, kind of what the size of the jail facility is and how many people you house, maybe. Your Honor, we just finished the remodeling edition, added approximately 150 beds. Our facility was 220, built in the year 2000. Now our 80% capacity is near 309 offenders. So you had 220 beds, you added 150 more. Yes, sir. Okay. And how far is your jail from here in Carroll County, roughly? Approximately 30 minutes. Jennifer, who is Robert Baston? I wonder why Rossi asked about that. I think that is the witness the defense wanted to call, who was the one who spilled the beans regarding the Odinist gods and how Rick Allen was actually treated. Question. And this is a modern facility, basically the most modern jail facility in the state. Answer. I don't know if it's the most modern in the state. It is the current technology for video conferencing as well as video cameras. So it's the newer technology, yes. Okay, and do you have the ability to house violent offenders? Yes, sir. That's what jails do. Do you do that routinely? I would believe so. Yes. Do you house individuals actually for the Department of Corrections? Not in the essence that we hold them for them. We hold them while they are waiting transfer to the Department of Corrections after they have been sentenced. Okay. So yes, we would have, in that sense, we would have them. And some of those, is it fair to say, some of those people are held for long periods of time? Yes. I mean, we're not just talking days. It'll be months. Correct. Okay, so do you house offenders from other counties? Currently, we do not have any from other counties, but we have memorandums of understanding for other facilities. Okay, so is it normal for that to happen over the course of your... Has it been normal for that to happen over the course of your time as a sheriff? Answer. Just the last year, since we completed our construction project? Okay, let me make sure I'm asking the question right. Is it normal for you to move inmates from your facility to other counties' facilities, back and forth, based on the needs and space and things like that? Yes. Basically, everybody helps everybody out. Correct, yes. And what are your current capabilities in terms of segregating any particular inmate if that needs to happen? It would really depend on the segregation needed. We have administrative segregation as well as disciplinary segregation. We have padded cell for mental health crisis, as well as we don't have individual cells, but we have dual people calls, dual person, dual male, dual female cells. Okay, you frankly gave me a little bit of a tour. I should say a tour through your prison a week ago. Is that right? Yes, sir. And did it by video? Is that fair to say? Yes. Are you in a circumstance in your facility where you could house somebody like, let's say, Rick Allen, who is, maybe there's a heightened sense of security around that with some reasonable comfort that is going to be safe? Answer. I believe housing-wise, yes. I believe the other administrative things go along with that. The media request, the public information request would be a burden for the staff, but yes, I believe we could house him. That goes to Rick Allen. It was never necessary for Rick Allen to be within the max unit, within the max prison. It was never needed. All they had to do in the original safekeeping was to make a few phone calls. Who can house Rick Allen? And at least in this county, they would have said yes. They could have. But no. And for you, this might be a spoiler, but Rick Allen stayed in prison after this hearing. for another year with Dr. Walla. It's insanity. So in terms of his actual physical safety, and that's something that you could do if you were asked to do it. Correct. I mean, is that the business you're in, basically housing people and keeping them safe? Yes, sir, it is. Let's just talk generally about I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Let's say Mr. Allen was housed in your jail and I wanted to visit him. Tell the judge how long it would take me to come over and see Mr. Allen, just in raw time, if you could estimate. Is that if you're already at our facility or if you walk from your office? No, if I'm in my office. It would be half a block walk to our central control. Yeah. Attorney Rossi is half a block away. He would talk to our central control operator, tell us he's there to see. We would have the inmate moved, and then we would put Mr. Rossi in an attorney room. It's not face-to-face, it's through glass. And then we would have the inmate moved to him in, I would say, in best case scenario, 15 minutes. Okay, so it's basically me just walking around the block and opening one door. Yes, sir. And essentially, there's some meeting rooms, and I just walk in one of those rooms, and he's brought up. Yes, sir. If you were to move him, when you move inmates from their cell locations to visit with their lawyers, do they walk freely under their own free will? If we don't have them in administrative or disciplinary segregation, yes. Okay, so in other words, if they threaten an officer or beat up another inmate or something, you got to kind of tighten up, right? That's correct. But in a case where, if I were just meeting with a client, they just walk freely. They're not shackled, are they? No, we do not normally within the facility shackle or handcuff offenders or inmates unless there's some reason to do that. Okay, is there any requirement for me to make advanced reservations, let's say a day in advance or hours in advance for me to come see a client? No, sir. We only request typically from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for both the prosecution and defense attorneys. Yeah, remember when McLeland said he was treated better than other inmates in the prison? That's not the comparison. The comparison should be with this. Is Rick Allen treated worse in Westville prison than he would have been here? And the answer is obviously, yeah, he's treated worse. Let's talk about video cameras. Do you have video cameras in your facility? Approximately 150, yes. And did you actually show me some of those cameras and kind of what they look like from your end in terms of what you can supervise and monitor a few weeks ago? Yes, sir. All right. Did the visitation rooms have cameras in them? They do, yes. Tell the judge where they're located. In the upper. So if the attorney is sitting across, it'll be in the upper left-hand corner in the ceiling. All right. And is there any way for you as sheriff, as supervisor of these inmates, to hear or interpret what's going on between the attorney and client based on what you can get video access? No, sir. Based on the video access. It's a single drone camera that doesn't have the ability to tilt, pan, or zoom. So we have, and there's no audio capability in those rooms as well. Question. Basically, just shows the back of the heads of the inmate and see the attorney through glass, right? Correct. If you were to solitary detain anyone, whether it be Mr. Allen or someone else, would they have the ability to shower daily? Yes, sir. Would they have the ability to obtain discovery from their lawyers and, view without any kind of burden? Answer. We do not do electronic media, but we allow legal mail and correspondence through written documents through paper. Question. So if I brought a pack of discovery in there and handed it to your jail staff, they would give it to him? Answer. Once they searched it to make sure, remove the staples and paper clips and then just thumb through it to make sure there's no other contraband? Yes. And they just hand it to him? Correct. Are there attorneys that visit the Cass County Jail that are allowed to bring computers in there? Yes. I mean, and phones. Yes. And all there is the visitation room essentially set up so that those things can happen with some convenience. Yes. The attorney and client or the offender inmate are separated by ballistic glass with there's a technical term, but I call them old theater speaker, so you can communicate back and forth. Okay. And in fact, you can even share documents in that, yes, house right, if they're paper. Right there in that housing facility situation, yes, sir. It will accept up to 3 pieces at a time. Okay. Did you receive a call from me several months ago about trying to make some arrangement to get Mr. Allen to your jail? Yes, sir. The transfer to this jail, if that happened in the first request to move Mr. Allen to jail, that would have occurred before Mr. Allen's full-blown psychosis, force-fed Haldol, and before the confessions. And essentially, is it fair to say that you were willing to do that if the court signed an order directing you to do it? Correct. I think the exact phrasing used, I really don't want him. I don't need the extra heartache, the stress, and the litigation liability, as well as the media inquiries, as well as the public records request. But if so ordered by the court, that's the business I'm in. And yes, we would do our best. And I came to you up front and asked you about that in advance, right? Correct, yes. Did you see that I reported to the court in my pleadings? I read part of it, but I don't think I read, the entire argument. Okay. Do you believe that your jail, whether you want it or not, do you think your jail is well suited to handle these kind of circumstances? Yes, sir. I think the modern jail we have, like probably 80% of the facilities in the state, would be accessible and capable of this type of custody. 80% of the facilities in the state would be accessible and capable of this type of custody, which goes directly towards what McLeland. No, he has to be in prison for his safety. And here you have somebody working in jail who says, nah, most can handle him. Okay, I don't have any further questions. Mr. McLeland, thank you, Your Honor. And cross-examination. Sheriff Schroeder, good morning. I've never met you face-to-face. I know we talked on the phone, but yes, sir, welcome. I want to talk specifically about Richard Allen. If the court does order you to house him, what kind of cell is he going to be in? It would depend on his classification, as well as mental state and worried about liability and litigation, but more than likely it would be in a 2-person cell, probably in our intake area. It's approximately 12 feet by 7 feet, 2 steel bunks, the stainless steel toilet, and a small desk. Would there be another inmate housed with him in that cell? Not initially. I will not do that initially, no. Does that cell have a video camera on it or in it? Yes, sir. And it's surveilled 24 hours a day? It's supposed to be. Supposed to be? Yes, sir. Fair enough, fair enough. The bed's in, well, let me back up. Initially, he'll be placed in that cell. If he's evaluated and found to be risk of self-ending, would he be moved to a different cell? Possibly, yes. Tell me about the cell that you house people in that make self-ending threats or that you deem to be risk of self-ending. Typical, we're in the process. The last phase of remodeling is we have a medical mental health area that's not open yet. It has the same type of cell, but would allow some more movement. But right now, our current stance is that everyone who has those ideation ends up in our padded cells with what we call a self-ending blanket, which is essentially a mover's blanket that is rip-stop with Velcro, so that we can provide modesty, but yet remove if anything would cause the ability to choke or strangle yourself. Sure. Is there a bed in that cell? No, sir. It's just, I assume it's like our padded cell. It's just a big room and it's padded on all 4 walls. Yes, sir. It's a wrestling mat type of material that has an epoxy paint on the walls and doors and floor. And if Mr. Allen's housed in your facility, are you going to allow him to walk from his cell to the visitation room unshackled? Until we couldn't. Unless there's some security threat or some self-ending mental health ideation, then that's within our security facility, because there's 3 layers of security, so we're not as concerned about the movement within the facility. On the opposite side of that, if it's deemed to be self-ending or a problem, what would be the protocol for moving him from the cell to the visitation? Answer: we will not allow visitation with attorneys until the medical staff deem him as not self-ending. Question: how often do you have medical staff on hand? Answer: we have a contract with Quality Correctional Care, and we have medical staff on site from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., so 12 hours a day. If something happens after that time, would Mr. Allen just have to wait till the next day to see medical staff? If it's psychiatric, possibly. If it's medical, it would be. Question: outside of medical emergency, where you had to call EMTs or whatever it is, but if something happens outside that range, does he just have to wait till the next day to be seen? Yes. Okay, and you talked about the shower time. Will he have rec time? We try to accommodate this Can you tell me about what kind of rec time he would have? Based on if he's in administrative segregation, they're locked in 23 hours a day. We provide the 1 hour a day. We have 3 separate recreation areas that we provide ability to get out and walk, to large muscle exercises, as well as a large overhead door to create an outdoor air movement environment. Sure. Talked about the attorney-client visitations. If Mr. Allen's housed in your facility, is he going to be able to have face-to-face family visitations? No, sir. What kind of visitations will he be able to have? We use a third-party vendor. Our systems currently contracted with a home WAV, and we have kiosk or tablet iPad types devices that they can use for educational as well as communication purposes. Would Mr. Allen be allowed to take that tablet into his cell? He could, yes. And would he be able to make phone calls from that tablet? There is ability to make calls, but not video calls. So it may simply be a telephone call, but not video. What about the send? Here in our county, we call them chirps, but they're texts. What about the ability to send text messages to people? Yes, that capability exists. Yes. And during this lunchtime, rec time, those times he's out of the cell, would he have interaction with other inmates in your facility? Answer: it would be minimal, maybe passing in the hallway or in the secure area or intake, but not generally, is what I would speculate our stance would be. Sure. This is kind of hypothetical. I understand he has to go through the intake process and those things. But with what you know now, if you were to house Richard Allen, would he be eating lunch with all the other inmates during the regular lunch hour? No, sir. Okay. Talked about the medical staff. Do you have any mental health staff that's available on your payroll? We do not have full-time mental health capabilities. We have an agreement approximately 4 hours a week with 4 county. Well, this is now 4C mental health out of Logansport, as well as every other week with our medical provider. I either have someone coming on site or it's a telehealth type visit. Okay, so 4 hours a week between the 2 organizations or some kind of telephone conference with a partner that you're working with. Yes, okay. That would be very close, yes. Now, transportation. If Mr. Allen's housed in your facility, are you and your staff willing to transport him to the Carroll County Courthouse for hearings or Allen County Courthouse for hearings? No, sir. He's not my inmate. Okay, so who would that responsibility fall on? Fall back on the original agency, unless there's some agreement made. Because as we house inmates or offenders for other counties, they are theirs. We are simply the housing facility. Sure, we are not a transport agency. Fair to say you don't transport for any other county that you're housing an inmate for. That's their responsibility. You're just a housing unit. Correct. Okay. Again, you testified about this, but the meetings, even the meetings between Mr. Allen and his returnees will be recorded. Is that correct? Video only, yes. Video only with no audio? Correct. But they are recorded, yes. And you had said the attorneys will be able to have laptops and cell phones in the visits? Yes. But does the offender have access to those? No. Okay. And so those are separated by a piece of glass, I think you said. And so even though the attorneys are allowed to have the computer and the cell phone, the offender can't access it, can't touch it, those kind of things. Correct. You mentioned it just a little bit, but you said initially he would be placed in a holding cell by himself. Correct. And I don't want to assume anything, but why initially would you put him in a holding cell by himself? I would be worried about the witness. Is it okay if I speak freely, ma'am? The court, of course. Answer. We classify our offenders, and we worry about, my job is to house them and keep them safe. So I worry about, and we classify and move our inmates and offenders, and we try to, in our administrative housing, for example, child molesters or suspected child molester, we try to protect them from getting repercussions from other offenders. Sure. And this is a large media, an area that I would be concerned about. Sure. Any type of retaliation, if you will. Sure. And that would be the reason. Also, we come in, we still quarantine, we still follow global health protocols. We really do it for any other infections. So we still limit movement as the offenders or inmates come in so that we can try to keep any communicable diseases from being spread within the facility. So that would start the process, and then based on those others, I believe we would keep him segregated or isolated in his cell. Sure. And Sheriff, I'm going to be candid with you. The fear is that if someone is alleged to have committed a crime or convicted of a crime that involves children, there's fear of retaliation from the other inmates. Yes, sir. And that's a concern of yours. Yes, sir. And you have that concern with Mr. Allen? Yes, sir. You have not been let me ask, has anyone communicated to you a threat concerning Mr. Allen? No, sir. Have you seen any threats that says we're going to get Mr. Allen? No, sir. And so you're basing this on your past experience? Yes, sir. And you have that concern with Mr. Allen? Yes, sir. Mr. McLean, I don't have any other questions, Judge. Mr. Rossi. Redirect of Sheriff Schroeder. Question. You house offenders all the time that have co-defendants in cases, common witnesses, all kinds of common connections, don't you? Yes, sir. Informants in drug cases? Yes, sir. They all bring about concerns of safety, don't they? Yes, sir. But do you deal with those in an appropriate manner and do your best to make sure everybody's safe? I do believe I do my best. I believe that some will argue whether it's appropriate or not, but yes. Okay. You mentioned the recreational opportunities. Look, this isn't Disney World, right? Right. But you got 3 separate rec rooms that you showed me on the camera the other day that would be suitable for somebody like Mr. Allen or him. Correct. And is it fair to say that you, Mr. Leakland, I asked you about the cell, and I think you said it was, I'm looking at my notes, 12 by 7, 2 steel bunks. It's basically a 2-man cell. Yes. And in fact, it actually has a little pod outside of it, which is more kind of a seating area where, what I would call a day room area. Is that right? In the mental health medical area that we haven't occupied, yes? Yes. I was going to say it's kind of a unique situation because you got a little cell room, and then you got another room where the offender can go that's got a table and, yes, an area to sit, a kind of leisure area, right? Correct. We haven't occupied that yet, but that is the goal down the road, which would include, so the cell now that I described does not have a shower in it. It has a toilet, sink, drinking fountain combination. So anyone in those has to be moved to a separate cell area for showering. This area, to try to accommodate medical, people with casts, canes, those kind of things, as well as mental health incidents, has a shower as well as a table area in that, so that we have less movement of that person. Okay, you mentioned mental health. And Mr. McLeland asked you about this. You mentioned 4 county counseling, right? Yes, sir. It's a fairly expansive mental health organization in Cass County and 3 other counties. Yes, hence the name. Yes. And they're basically at your fingertips in terms of your providing services. Yes and no. Most of the work they do for us is grant-based, but they provide services as well as a navigator in mental health, as well as the mental health from our medical provider. And do you agree there's hundreds of people in your jail with mental health issues? Yes, sir. And you believe your jail is equipped to deal with those in a reasonable way when they come about? In the most extreme cases, yes. But the general addiction or depression and those type of mental health issues, no. We don't have the resources to do that. Most extreme cases, meaning like self-ending issues and things like that. Yes, sir. Mr. McLeland asked you about family visit, and you suggested, well, there's no contact. Do you recall that? Yes. Is it fair to say that family members often come to the jail to visit they come to the visit facility to visit with inmates? Yes, it is. Basically, you got an area where they can come in and essentially get on a TV screen and look at their significant other or whatever, right? Yes. Our system has dual capability. You can do it remotely, which there's a fee for. That's because it's third-party vendor. Or you can come into our lobby and use our kiosk, probably like most jail custody facilities. And you can visit for free from that location during the normal movement times. It would be a little different in this case if he would happen to be housed there and in the segregation cell, because that is not as free movement, and it would take the staff to move in to get to a tablet or a kiosk. And as far as do you have pastoral counseling on a routine basis at your jail? Yes, sir. And as far as in-person contact, like lawyer-client in-person contact, is it fair to say that you accommodated me when I need to sit down in the airspace of a client and share information with them? Yes. That you have the ability to do that too? Yes. We have a contact attorney room that we use, not on a routine basis, but we use when an attorney would ask to say, I need some time with my client, I needed to sign some documents, or I need to spend some time with him. It's more, or showing videos. Yes. Photographs, things like that. We have it. But it's more the exception than the rule, yes. But I've used that, haven't I? Yes, sir. And it's not much of a hassle, is it? No, sir. Nothing further. Mr. McLeland, re-cross-examination. Sheriff Schroeder, I forgot to ask you. What about clothing? How many changes of clothing would Mr. Allen have if he was in your facility? We change jumpsuits I believe it's 3 days. I believe that's the DOC guideline we follow, Department of Corrections, through the Jail Operations Manual. And so if it's every 3 days, it sounds like they're giving 2 sets of clothing a week, maybe 3 sets of clothing a week. We typically only give them 1 and then exchange them 1 for 1. Okay, fair enough. If an inmate were to soil his clothing on the first day, are they stuck with them? No, sir. They'd make Okay, tell me the protocol. They'd make a request through. Every cell has an intercom speaker system, and they could alert the corrections officers. Hey, I need a new suit. I soiled myself, and then they will accommodate that. Sure. I can't say it's immediate, but sure, it will be. Sure, the time, yes. No other questions? All right, Sheriff, you may step down. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Rossi, I have nothing further. Mr. McLeland, do you have any evidence on this? Mr. McLeland, Judge, I do. I have 2 witnesses. Could I ask the court for a short recess? Just so I can use the restroom. Would counsel approach? Sidebar conference conducted. The court. This is sidebar? Ha! I knew you couldn't hide this from us. I just want to know where we're at. You got 2 witnesses. Ms. McLeland, Tony Lidgett and the West Will Warden. Okay, do you want to break for lunch? I don't, but I'm okay. Ms. McLeland, so I don't care. I can. Inaudible. And that makes Inaudible number 8. We are still at volume 2 out of 21. 8 inaudibles. Where the court reporter... Oh, I didn't hear that. Sorry. The court, yeah, we could take a quick break. How long? I don't mean to be in pain, but no, that's all right. How long do you think you will be? Downstairs and right back up. No. I mean in your witnesses, with your evidence. Oh, the court, ding dong. I don't care how long it takes for you to go there. No, I don't care about that. I really don't think too long. Inaudible. Oh, wrong. 9 inaudibles. A friend of mine, Steve Gosney, says his record of inaudibles in one trial transcript, like this one, is 125. We are at volume 2. The first one was just table of contents. 9. And we have 80 pages to go. If we have 10 per volume, that makes 200. Yeah. So we are probably going to break Steve Gosney's record in inaudibles from this court reporter who apparently has hearing issues. Tony about the transportation resources, and then Galipeo just to address the allegation. They made it in the safekeeping. The court, so another hour and a half. I guess I just couldn't. Let's break for lunch. I know you don't want to, but too bad. Rossi, I'm fine with whatever. The court, okay, let's just break for lunch. Mr. Rossi, I don't have anywhere else I need to be. The court, well, I know you don't because you were supposed to be here for 2 days. Rossi, yeah. Why don't we just reconvene at 1:15? That's awesome. Would that work? Would that give you time to talk to your people? What time did you say? 1:15. What about him? Where will they take him? Folks, we're still on the record. Thank you. McLean, they can probably take him to the jury room. Mr. Rossi? Inaudible. That's 10 with 80 pages to go. Okay, all right. Sidebar conference concluded. The court, we're going to go ahead and break for lunch. The state's evidence is going to take about an hour. Perhaps it'll be a little longer. It's about 12:15 now. All of y'all have been sitting here for quite a while. So let's reconvene at 1:15, please. Yodi, you can go off the record at 12:12. All right, folks, we've been at it for 3 hours. I need to rest my voice. I can feel it. But yeah, so we are still at volume 2, and I already made it known that there's an entire hearing missing. The ex parte hearing is missing from the records. We have these inaudibles that shouldn't be there. We have McLeland trying to make statements about he's treated better than the other inmates. Mr. Allen should never have been compared to the people in the prison. He should have been compared to the inmates in that jail. And yeah, he was treated extremely worse. I mean, it's not even a comparison at this point. And we also found out that once the defense started really finding out, what the F is going on here. We already had a reference to the Coming Franks motion. So the prosecution at this point in time knows the defense is onto them. And what do? they take it out on Rick Allen. Whatever they did in that prison, they put it into overdrive with the help of Dr. Walla. Broke him completely. Just because Rick's attorneys was doing their job. So, folks, I will continue tomorrow with this. Wednesday, I'm going to have a guest, Megan Fox, the writer, and we are going to talk about the Laura Owens case. If you don't know who Laura Owens is a serial fraudster who finds wealthy men getting on a date where she spreads open or gapes open, and when they no longer want to have anything with her because very, very, very fast they understand that she is a whack job, she pretends she's pregnant and she puts out restraining orders. That case is a clusterfuck in its own. So me and Megan on Wednesday. But tomorrow we will go through the rest of this one. So we get through volume 2. And it's not, folks, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. But thank you everybody for showing up. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to do this. Thank you from me and Mr. Jingles, who were at my feet just a second ago trying to scratch my legs. Thank you. I will see you all tomorrow. I will send you off with the free Rick song. Have a good one. And remember, folks, hug your family. Unless your family is shit, then screw them and give your love to the people who deserve it. Okay? See you. Bye-bye.
Down in the shadows where the courthouse stands, a gavel cracks a fading hands. Judge Gould, they whisper with a crooked grin, played the game where justice don't win. Free Rick Allen, let him go. Chains on the innocent, don't you know? When the truth's been buried and the lies unfold, the fire in the people burns hot and cold. Prosecutor Michelin with his papers tight wrote the tale that never saw light. Twisted words in a room of stone, left Rick Allen to stand alone. Who will answer? Who will pay? The sun don't rise on a judgment day. Free Rick Allen, let him go. Chains on the innocent, don't you know? When the truth's been buried and the lies unfold, the fire in the people burns hot and cold. Officer Holman, eyes like frost, drunk on power, the line got lost. Lock the doors, keep him inside, for justice limps where his footsteps stride.